You're listening to
Fresh Out the Game.
Man, I be so fresh.
Fresh Podcast Network.
בלי קשקושים.
Straight from Tel Aviv, Israel.
רק מה שמעניין.
Let's go.
Hi, my name is Hilal Leizarovich.
And I'm Ron Avon. We are two entrepreneurs from Israel, and we are on a journey to find out what makes entrepreneurs, investors, and CEOs,
Succeed or fail.
and we hope to inspire your journey. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TLV DNA show. And with us today is Ron Brightman, the co-founder and CEO of Gigantic, right?
That's correct.
That's great. All right, and
Hilal Leizarovich, and today I
we got two Rons
Yes.
on this episode. Another Ron and that's a jackpot. So, tell us in a nutshell what Gigantic is doing and where is it located? What's going on there? It's kind of
In
mysterious.
a nutshell. Okay. So we're Gigantic, and our first app is called Chloe. And what we do is actually quite special, quite unique. We create a new vertical in the gaming space. We enable our players to play on real physical machines. Okay, they control real physical game machines. We started mostly with claw machines, and now we're also expanding to other arcade games. So the player controls a real claw machine, and he sees his actions in live video. And when they catch a prize, they get it delivered to their doorstep, which is very cool. And indeed, we have lots of very happy players playing with us for the last 3 years. We started the company about 3 years ago. And we're trying to keep innovating and pushing this new vertical forward. So that's in a nutshell.
So basically, you took a game that we all know from our childhood, and you upgraded with the technology to a new level and become a trend. And I guess not only to people who experienced it in the past, but also for children. And tell us about your audience.
So it's a little bit like that, but also different, because you think that not everyone has experienced the claw machine, and in reality, there is almost no one that has not either played or was with someone who's playing a claw machine. It's everywhere in the world. Claw machines were invented 100 years ago. The first claw machine was invented in the US. It was called the iron claw. And ever since then, it expanded organically throughout the world. So there's almost no country where you cannot find claw machines. And in some countries, you can find them anywhere, okay, especially in the Far East, but anywhere else as well. So everyone is familiar with claw machines, but they're considered very simple gaming devices. And what we have done is we brought them to the 21st century. We're enabling playing on real claw machines through the app. We also have a mobile web and a mobile web and other platforms, but mostly through the apps on Apple and on Google Store. The thing that it does, it creates a very unique game experience, because players, people, now everyone is a player, so players are used to play on virtual machines, virtual stuff that is animated and drawn, and we got used to that. But once you are playing on a real physical machine and you're controlling something that is actually happening in reality, and you can see it through live video streaming, it creates a different game experience.
Yeah, it's a lot more powerful. It's kind of a retro future, you know?
Exactly.
It's
That's a nice definition. I never thought about it.
Yeah, it's like you're bringing the machines we all know from the arcade. You know, started at this
Exactly.
late 70s or maybe beginning of the 80s, and today you let everyone play through the virtual platforms that everybody know.
Right.
So tell us about the ideation process. Were you like, let's establish an arcade, or was it from the beginning your idea to make it scalable like that?
It's a little bit more mundane. I've been doing online marketing or performance marketing for the last 20 years. I've been in many companies, big and small. And before that company, I founded with my existing co-founder another company that we did the service for other mobile apps, mobile games, for marketing them, distributing them. And through that service, we actually saw and interacted with hundreds of other apps, successful ones. Okay, only the successful ones that had budgets to promote them. And we promoted apps anywhere in the world, and we saw everything that's going on in the mobile games market, which is obviously a very growing and innovative and interesting market. And through that, we realized that, and that's, I think, an important thing for entrepreneurs, as we all know, most new things fail. Okay, most of the ideas fail. So we saw so many apps that had a good start but failed, and we saw how competitive the market is. So the first realization was that if we ever want to do something like that ourselves, it has to be extremely powerful, and in a way to get as close to kind of vetting the idea before you actually go for it is also a very good tip, if you like. So we saw something that was a little bit like that in the Far East. Okay, it was mostly done on web, and we helped them become bigger in the mobile. And it was a very Eastern app, okay, with all the Eastern, Far East culture and look and feel and methods and everything else. And we realized that this has a huge potential, and we can make something Western out of that will be even bigger and more successful, and with all the knowledge that we have and that people around us can have to make it huge. And at the beginning, we didn't go all in at day one. We started as bootstrap. So we put some of our own money into that. And I had no idea how to take a claw machine and turn it into a mobile game. So we bought one second-hand claw machine from a small arcade or whatever, and then we had to find someone who will know how to connect it, just to make it available to control through the internet. So basically to create a very basic API, and it was successful. And then I went and found an offshore company to do the MVP of the app itself, to see that the app can control the claw machine. And they did it, and it was successful. And then I paid a little bit more money to have it done as a very basic mobile app. And I fully believe in the notion that you have to get to the market as fast as possible, not because you need to be before your competitors, which is also very important, but mostly to validate what you're doing and to iterate and to improve what you're doing. So we did what's called an MVP, which is a very basic mobile game that controls the machines. I bought like 3 more, so I had 4 or 5
about the
machines.
test with real users.
Okay, so that's exactly that point. I got to the point where I thought, okay, I have a game with 5 machines and very, very basic game, but it's good enough to test it. So I beta launched it in Israel here. And kind of like the next day I woke up, it was a few days, but it sounds better as the next day. Next day I woke up and I found out that people here actually are playing the game and even paying for the game. And then I had to actually take prizes and go to the post office and post them to people. But it was surprising. I remember that the first significant payment was 100 shekels, which is nothing. But back then, it was it was amazing.
Symbolizes something.
Yeah, I thought if someone is willing to pay 100 shekels for something that is so simple and not there yet, then there is something very good here. And at that stage, I thought I realized that I needed to raise funds. So that was the a lot of entrepreneurs raise funds in the ideation process, or maybe only in the when they have some kind of software not tested yet. I was not confident to take money from others before I had enough proof, especially for myself, but also obviously it's good for
raising
the funds. And at that stage, I started to go around and search for funds. And that is another story which is interesting, because it was my first time raising funds. And
What was the challenge in the process of getting to investors?
okay, so I actually faced a different challenge than what I thought. Okay, I thought that the challenge will be to actually raise the funds, and it turned out to be something else. I was told that maybe 1 in 10 people will say yes, but I do know people from the industry because I'm many years in the industry. So I started to go around, and almost anyone I spoke with said yes, or everyone. So almost everyone. So I very, very fast.
Very rare.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think most of the investors that I approached, they are from the industry, not outsiders of the industry, and they realize that there is something valid here that has a big potential, and some of them also know me or know someone that knows me, so it was relatively easy in that manner. But what happened is that very, very fast, it became so that I had too many people that wanted to invest in the company. And initially, I intended to raise $1.5 million, and I ended up raising 2 million at a higher valuation, and still had many people that wanted to invest in the company, and I had no space for them, no room. And also the existing investors, some of them wanted to put more money, and I didn't have enough room.
So your challenge was choosing the right funds or the right investor?
No, I think the challenge there was that I changed the round from being $1.5 million, 2 million, and I changed the valuation, and that created a lot of tension with the investors, because it shifted, it changed for them, and that might have been a mistake, or I don't know, maybe it was not a mistake, but maybe I should have managed it in a different way. But that was challenging, but eventually everyone understood, and it went through, and it was successful.
You said that you will do it differently. Try now with your knowledge, so our entrepreneurs will learn from it, to say what would you change in your process.
Okay, so in hindsight, everyone is very smart. So it's not fair. So obviously, the easy answer I would tell you is that I had to aim for higher amount from the get-go. Okay, but that's easy to say. I think maybe a more introspective way to say, or a more beneficial way for others, is the issue of communication with the investors. I think that's something that I constantly try to improve on, the issue of communicating what's happening, what's going on with the investors, and if anything is changing, and if anything is even not going well, problems, stuff like that. I think everyone has an inclination, including myself, not to share everything, just to share the good things. And usually it's not good. Usually it's much better to share everything and to keep the investors updated, and to share the challenges and the changes and everything, because investors are human beings like all of us, and people like to know what's going on, and to feel that they have clarity of everything, and it creates a better working environment.
And communication. So you have to be clear with investors, and
Yeah.
that's something I believe that is true, and everybody should be clear. Give us an example, about a downside, which is something you say, I'm not instinctively sharing it, but you should share it.
Exactly. So I think the most obvious one, and probably something that almost all entrepreneurs will encounter, is in a startup you have ups and downs. So the downs are always there. Usually the numbers don't reach the goals or the budget or the targets or whatever. And it always happens. You have good times and the bad times. So in the bad times, you have to keep communicating that it's going bad. Why is it going bad? What's your plans to get out of the bad situation? And it's always not easy to do that. Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
because I care for the people that invested money in me, basically, and in the company, and I want them to be happy. I want them to see that we're successful. And when things are going the wrong way, I still need to communicate with them, and it's always not a good feeling, but that's the right thing to do.
Great. I have another question about the experience. I was a kid going to arcades, so I love machines, but at the end of the day, sometimes there's a line.
Right.
There's a line to the machine, and you need to wait there, in the line till it's your turn. And that's something, that is not scalable in our days with, the virtual digital era. How do you address that?
Okay, so scalability is definitely one of the challenges and one of the questions that I get asked the most. And it is a challenge, but we have our ways to deal with it. So first one might be surprising. When you play in Chloe, when you play the claw machines, these are real claw machines. So as you said, if someone is playing the machine and you want to play the same machine, you get a line, you get a queue. So you have to kind of stand in line, but what happens is that you watch them play. Okay, you watch others play. And what we found out is that, not surprisingly, people love to watch others play. Which, as you know, is a huge trend anywhere in Twitch and YouTube and anywhere else. But then it's a matter of how much time you need to wait. So if you only need to wait 1 round or 2 rounds, or let's say less than 1 minute, we found out that most of the times it's actually beneficial, because the player is watching someone else trying to win the machine, trying to beat the machine, and they strategize and they feel the excitement.
The instinct to say, no, do that.
Exactly.
It's not really influence, but it's in you.
Exactly.
And you learn from it.
And you learn from it, exactly. Which is, I have 4 kids, and my youngest is playing, now it's his turn to play Fortnite, and he became so good. He's like way better than myself, and he's 6 years old. And one of the ways that he's doing that is by watching others play on YouTube. So watching others play is interesting by itself, but it's also beneficial. So it's part of the solution, is already built into the game. But obviously we have to make sure that the waiting times don't get prolonged too much, and it's like only few seconds. And for that we have the simple solution, which is to build more machines. And this is part of what we're doing. Right now we're renovating our next, we call it the studio. So our next studio to double up on the numbers of machines that we have. But other than that, we have some other technological mechanisms to improve the allocation of players per machines and so forth and so on.
Trying to invent new games, or you are still taking games that familiar?
Okay, that's a lovely question, and it's a pity that we cannot or that we do not do this interview in the studio with the machines. No, seriously, because I know, most people here listen, so they cannot see, but it's an amazing experience to see the studio with all the machines. And if we were there, I would have shown you some of the machines that we're inventing. And we actually love to invent new machines and new mechanics, and our players love it as well. But what we're trying to do is kind of mimic familiar games that we're all familiar with. So, for example, we have a basketball machine, and the it's a real basketball. And we have a cannon, a ball's cannon. It's a slightly smaller ball than an official basketball. And the cannon shoots the ball into the basket, which is very nice. You need to aim it. Yes. We have golf. So you aim a golfing club to the ball, and you have to shoot it into the hole. We have this kind of the same mechanism with soccer or football. And also my favorite machine is a Nerf gun. If you know what's a Nerf gun, it's kind of a gun that shoots plastic balls, and it's actually a huge one. It's like a machine gun. It shoots a lot of small plastic balls into plastic clowns. So these machines where you have plastic clowns and you need to throw a ball to shoot them down. So instead of throwing the ball, we have a gun shooting. I know it sounds. But as long as it's shooting
it
only
sounds
plastic
fun.
clowns,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun, and that's my personal favorite machine. And I can tell you, although it's not out there yet, that our next machine is going to be a bowling machine. We actually bought 2 real bowling lanes with all the the machine that picks up the pins and puts the ball back. The real one, real bowling machine. And now our challenge is to make either a cannon that shoots the ball or a robotic hand that throws the ball. Or your imagination can go wild here, but we actually need to make it happen. And I think that the bowling will be another big hit.
So that sounds exciting, and I understand that you have constant challenge of inventing yourself again and again to have the user actually feel that he throws the ball, that he, pushes something,
Yes.
and let him feel more realistic out there.
Yes, I think that's one of the big challenges. Definitely one of the big challenges is to keep inventing and to keep providing the user experience, the player experience that is as close to reality as possible. It is reality because you are controlling something real. But it is a little bit different because we have to replace the hand of the player
Remotely.
Let's try to focus on the logistic, because it's not only about the game. You started to say, I found myself delivering
Exactly.
prices. And so how did you build your logistic when you started to scale?
Okay, so I think the issue here that we face is the complexity of what we're doing. And when you're doing something that's very complex, you have pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that you're doing something that's usually different, that's usually unique, and that's usually harder to copy, so you have barriers for entry. The downside is that you have to deal with lots of complex things. And what our company is facing is that unlike other mobile game companies where they have only a software to deal with, which is definitely hard enough, because in software you need to create the software, you need to make the economy work, you need to do the marketing, the UI, the features, the everything, and it's so complex that it's unimaginable. Our company, on top of that, has 3 or at least 3 other verticals that we need to deal with. First one is obviously the machines. So this is hardware. So building the machine, maintaining the machines, refilling the machine, fixing the machines, inventing new machines. So that's a big challenge, because every time that you connect software with hardware, you have double the amount of difficulties and problems. So that's one big extra thing that we have to deal with. The other one being e-commerce. As you said, the logistics of e-commerce. So we're basically a mobile games app, but we're also in a way an e-commerce app, because what we have. So let's talk maybe a few words about the prizes that we have in Chloe, because that will explain why it's complex. If you go to the arcade center and you play a claw machine, usually you will see one or two claw machines and you have some stupid things inside, whatever, a keychain or things like that. What we can provide is something completely different, because we have at any given time 500 different prizes in the app. So we can cater to a very large audiences, or different audiences. We can, young, small, women, men, and different interests. So we have the biggest categories, obviously the dolls, the stuffed animals, or like Americans call it plushies, and that's obviously the biggest category. And also in that category you have subcategories and you have different brands. And I was amazed to learn about the power of different brands. Like, for example, we have Disney stuff and Marvel and stuff like that. And I found out that the strongest brand by far are Pokemons. Really, you cannot imagine the power of that brand. So we have all these kind of plushies, and big and small and licensed and non-licensed, just stuff without any brand that's very cheap, and very expensive stuff that is fully licensed and official. But other than that, we have different categories like gadgets, for phones or for anything else, and we have home goods and apparel and
all this needs to be delivered at the end of the day, right?
So all of this stuff needs to be bought. So you have to calculate how many you have to buy, and have to be stocked somewhere, and then you have to deliver them. So it's a complete e-commerce issue, okay? And at the beginning, we solved that problem. We didn't want to deal with it, okay? So we thought, okay, we will deal with it later on. So we found a relatively easy solution. And the solution was to drop ship it, okay? So at the beginning, we didn't buy anything. We just drop shipped. Drop ship means that we actually buy them from AliExpress and from Amazon like anyone else.
It.
Yes, and they actually send it. And we still have a platform that manages all of that stuff, but that was a very easy solution to get started. Today, we are already doing so many other things. We're doing direct deals with some of the big brands, and we have deals with very big companies, even with Nintendo, for let's say for the Mario Brothers IP. So we actually managed to close a deal with them, and we don't have to pay anything extra for using such amazing brands, because their interest is that we only buy official and licensed products, and that we buy directly from them and not from anyone else. So we managed to close very, very good deals. And now even some of the brands want to get priority over other brands. So they do these kind of things with them. And we have warehouses in the US and in China. And we intend to have warehouses in other countries as well, and the interesting thing, one funny thing about that is that it is much to send an item from the US to the US internally, even if it's the next street, the minimum cost is $4, and if you send the same item from China to the US, it's about $2 or even less.
It's a crazy world.
Very crazy world.
So it's a completely different experience, because if you started by AliExpress, so it's arrived with their brand, and
right.
you didn't have a control how people get it. And now I guess that you're having all this logistic because you want it to be branded by your company and to give the celebration for that this is your prize, right?
It's a combination of reasons.
And
One
costs.
of them is the branding. The other one is cost. So we have to when we buy in bulk,
Yeah,
obviously
you're reducing your costs,
Reducing costs.
at the end of the day, and it becomes more
Yes.
efficient
Right.
as well. And as Ela said, I'm sure it's much more delightful to get it,
Yes.
from the brand itself, and not like
with the package, with the packaging
Yeah,
that
yeah,
has our
yeah,
brand on
yeah,
it and
yeah.
everything. Yeah, sure.
It feels like a closure
Yeah.
of the experience. And
Omni.
Yeah, an omni-channel experience.
An omni-channel
Exactly.
experience. I want to address that. At the end of the day, it sounds. Sorry if it sounds bad. It sounds like you're managing a circus. You have a real arcade. You have stocks with dolls and presents and gifts, and an app. New modern digital
Right.
platform. And it sounds very complicated.
It is complex.
It sounds very complicated. But I want to sink you in back to what you did before you went into this venture, and that's marketing.
Right.
At the end of the day, you need to take this and market it very well, push it all over the world because it's global.
Right.
It's a global product.
Right.
How have you done that?
Okay, so marketing is where I feel more comfortable always, because that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years in many different companies, and they were all global companies doing online or mobile marketing, and that is almost only or mostly performance-based marketing, which is kind of different than traditional marketing. Because everything is measured and everything is optimized, and we know everything about any cent that we're spending. And once you measure and you know what's happening for every cent that you're spending, you can spend much more, because you know what works and what doesn't, and you know if it returns, if it has positive returns on the spend. So basically the concept in performance marketing is spend as much as you can, as long as it brings back the payback that you're looking for. Yeah, that you can set up the ROIs differently if you want to get it to break even within 1 month or 12 months or whatever. But as long as you have that set up and it works, usually it doesn't work. If it works, then basically you're supposed to invest as much as you can.
To increase as much as you
to
can.
increase as much
So you
as
get
can.
into this formula
Right.
of marketing, and then you say you just need to push more money into it, and you get better results.
Yeah, it's a little
bigger
yeah.
results.
It's a little bit more complex than that. Obviously, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to keep iterating and trying also new creative and new channels and new
What
things.
kind of tip can you give entrepreneurs that need to plan this marketing budget and everything?
So it depends, I think today, 20 years ago, not many people were familiar with that kind of how to do that. But today it's a bit more widespread, the knowledge and the processes. So if they're not familiar with that, they should take someone. It's a very important thing. Obviously, that's, you cannot expect to put your product out there and have everyone rushing in to take your product, because that's usually not how it works. It does happens once in a blue moon, but usually it's not how it works. So you should take someone that knows what he's doing. It's a profession by itself, and you should look at the KPIs. And the most important KPI is the ROI, right? Usually. Some products have different KPIs, or the beginning usually you measure something else like retention or how many games, etc. So, but you need to make sure that you know what are the KPIs, what you're measuring, and then you need to test it as fast as possible. Really, as soon as possible, you can start testing it and looking how far you are from the KPI that you defined. And let's say it is ROI, and let's say that you want to get 100% ROI, or ROAS, that's called in the marketing. It means that the money that you spent got back to you, let's say entirely. And then you need to define how fast you want it to get back to you. Okay, so it can happen within a month, which is amazing and outstanding and usually will not happen, or only if you're spending very low amounts, or if you have either more budgets or more time, and you can wait 6 months or 12 months until that money comes back. And that's it. You plan the KPIs, you start testing it, and then you see if it works and does it or it doesn't. And then obviously and another thing is that it also really depends on the budget that you're spending, because if you're spending $100 per day, you will usually get a much better results than if you're spending $100,000 per day, at least on performance marketing, because today the channels, and the big channels are obviously Facebook and Google, and then there's some others, but these are the biggest ones. And most of the channels, they know how to target the right people. Okay, it's not just spray and spray, it's very, very targeted. So at the beginning, they're targeting the most lucrative and relevant customers. And the more that you spend, they cannot keep targeting the same people. They have to expand, and they have to widen their aiming. And when you widen your aiming, you get less quality people, and also the cost of the media increases. So you have to assume that also when you're starting to test with $100 and you see everything is good, you have to expect that the more you increase, the returns will diminish.
What are the most popular machines in the arcade today? This is a question I want to ask from the beginning.
So actually, the popularity goes by the prize and not by the machine. So the most popular prizes are the branded ones, and as I said, the Pokemons. All the Pokemon family, we have almost all of them. I was not actually that familiar with that.
And they're only on certain machines?
Yes.
How did you decide to locate it on that machine? Or?
That's a good question. We keep trying to optimize and to check which machine is suitable for which prize. And also, as you said, there are some machines that are more popular than others. Like for example, we have machines that are called UFO catchers. They're Japanese style machines, and they look completely different than the claw machines that we're used to. In Japan, if you go to visit Japan, you will see that first of all, they have these claw machines everywhere. Like in the main streets, every 50 meters, you have a shop only for claw machines.
It's interesting because vending machines are very popular in Japan as well.
Yeah. So claw machines are extremely popular, but their machines, the UFO catchers, are completely different. They, instead of 3 prongs, 3 fingers that are the claw machines have, they only have 2. So 2, and you instead of picking up the item that you're trying to catch, you have to drop it down. So there is a big hole, and it's the prize is located on like 2 prongs, and you have to kind of push it in a way so it falls down. And these machines are actually amazing. They're less familiar, people are less familiar with them in the West, but they work amazingly well. And they're
with
very
West users.
Also with West users, once they get used to it.
2 main perceptions. One, usually people go to the machine, they play, they have fun, then they choose their prize. You said no, they want the prize, then they decide which machine to go to. You actually did it the opposite. And the other thing is, like I said, usually people go out to play, and you say no, stay at home.
Stay at home.
It's good with COVID, I
Yeah.
guess.
Exactly. We can discuss it.
You actually took 2, let's say 2 main values and actually disrupt it.
Yes. So what we're talking about playing and then choosing the prize, it's more like the arcade center where you have lots of different machines and you get the tickets, and then you go to the counter and choose the prize. But in claw machines, it's not the case. You just go for the machine with the prize that you want, and that's what's happening on our app. But we also added that concept which you just mentioned. We also give, for every game we give tickets, and then you can accumulate tickets and you go to what we call inside Chloe, it's called the freebie shop, where you can exchange your tickets for any kind of prize that you choose. So we have both of these concepts. And in terms of staying inside, I think, everyone is already playing and everyone is a player. So it's obvious that you need to make these things available also to play from your phone, from your mobile phone, and don't have to go to the arcade center. But obviously here now in these times with the coronavirus, people cannot go outside even if they do want to. So it's amazing, especially for us, because the entire gaming industry gained a lot of new players from the corona, but I think that we are positioned even in a more unique place, because we actually give the experience of playing in a real arcade center, even with live, with people around you. So
that's wonderful, really, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, they're playing from home, but they're going outside in a certain a certain way.
But you said you started to develop like the bowling, and usually it's like 3-5 people. There's a contest. So how do you give the same competition and social event?
So I think we can do exactly that. The feeling of real competition with other players, like you have in other games, whatever, Fortnite.
So you'll
Clash
watch
Royale.
yourself now, and then it's the other one turn, you'll watch him, and then it becomes your turn again?
Exactly so.
Are you already doing it?
Not yet, but that's in the plan. We also have a new game coming out next month, which is all about playing arcade games without real physical prizes, only the prizes that we used to get in all other games, which is to progress and to win more things and to get virtual trophies and stuff like that. And that game will take the company even one step further. It is more challenging, but I think that's more interesting, because that's the vision of the company. What we're trying to do is actually create a new vertical within the gaming space, which is by itself very inspiring.
But I have to ask this question: if you're gonna put a machine with an arcade machine, let's say Golden Axe, or I don't know what game is on it. At the end of the day, this is something that could be fully digital. What do you gain out of playing it in real-time arcade?
We're not doing digital games. We're only doing physical games that something physical is happening in the real world, like shooting, like basketball, like bowling.
I understand, but there are no prizes.
No prizes.
That's what I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. That's a very unique and different startup than the people we usually meet here. It's about gamification, but as I said, it's the past and the future.
Right.
It combines it all together. And do you have any insights from users, different cultures, different places in the world? What's going on within that data?
Absolutely. So first, I think obviously we learn a lot from our players. Some things we can learn, some things it's usually not possible to learn from the players, because usually what happens is if you ask the players or the customers what do they want, the 90% of the time they will answer to get free coins. Okay. Yeah, that's like 90% of the time. So or any kind of variation of that. Okay, to have the app be cheaper, to be able to get more coins cheaper and stuff like that. Sorry.
Thanks.
But sometimes you do get very interesting insights from the players, either from asking them, but also from simply watching the data of how they play, how much they play, when they play, what do they play, how much they pay, and the data can tell you a lot. And these days you have to watch the data very carefully, and you have to take the right decisions based on data. Otherwise, no chance for success. Absolutely.
You didn't expect it that you learned from the data, and it was like a surprise.
Actually, it happens a lot because what we're constantly doing, we spoke a lot about the machines, but a lot of our focus goes to the app itself, to the game itself, and as you know, if you play some games, most of the successful games have lots of features. In the industry, we call it the core loop and the meta features. So the core loop is kind of like the actual things that you're playing, the actual game. And the meta features are everything that's around it. So, for example, the leaderboards, the bonuses, the friends, the progression in the story or in the map or in whatever you're doing. So we're constantly trying to put in more and more meta features like that. And many times we have a notion of, obviously that has to work because it creates an additional interest point or additional layer. And many times you see that when we release things, we always, almost always release them in what's called an A/B test. So half of the group usually for new players, but also sometimes for existing players. So you divide into two or more groups, and some of the groups don't get the new features, and some do. And then you look at the data, and if you're trying to analyze only something that's very far from what's going on, so for example, the profitability, okay, the bottom line is always the profitability or the revenues, okay, how much are people paying, okay, that's usually the bottom lines, but sometimes, or most of the times, it's too far from what's actually you're trying to make an impact on. Okay, maybe you're trying to make them use that new feature, and by that to play more games. Not necessarily to pay more, okay, but just to play more games, or to change more time, or to change something in their behavior. Okay, so you have to set up the measurement even beforehand. Before you release the feature, you have to in advance think what's going to be the KPI that you're going to measure, and then you have to measure that. And sometimes if you look too far, let's say at the profitability, you will not see any change, okay, or you might even see the reverse of what you expect. And if you look at something that's much more relevant and immediately affected by the change that you've made, you will understand what's going on later on. And it happened to us many times. For example, we released about less than half a year ago, we released something that's called a collection cabinet. Okay, when someone wins a prize on the app, he has two choices, either to take it home, or they can exchange it back for more coins to play on. Okay, that's from the get-go of the app from 3 years ago. And then we realized that at some point, we saw in the data that at the beginning, most of the players take the prizes home, all of the prizes, but the more they play, the less they take them home and the more they exchange it. And that made us very fast realize that they're interested in the gameplay itself and not necessarily only in the prizes, in getting the actual prizes. So they like the game, it's fun for them, it makes them happy. They don't necessarily need $100, okay? They can suffice with 10, and the rest they can exchange for more gameplay. So we thought about how can we build features that will even take that one step further. So we thought, okay, we get a lot of pictures that our players send us when they get the prizes. So they do a selfie with the prizes. We have few thousands of these pictures. You can find all of them on our Facebook page. We have the official Chloe Facebook page, and you will see thousands of players with pictures that they took from with the prizes. And over time, we saw that instead of taking a picture with one or two prizes, it was like walls filled with prizes, really hundreds of prizes. And we thought, okay, why don't we build such a wall or a cabinet inside the app where they can, keep their prizes forever. Mm-hmm. still get some more coins for that, to play on, but also kind of keep the prize and not let it go. So we built kind of a virtual cabinet that looks exactly like a real cabinet, and once the player caught the prize, he can either take it home or put it in the cabinet. And we were very excited about that feature. And what happened is that we saw that most of the players didn't use it. They didn't like it. They didn't like their prize to get stuck there without the ability to actually take it home or exchange it. Less tangible. So what we did is we changed the way we thought about that feature, and we basically enable them to keep it in the cabinet and to take it home. And
I was
that
about to ask
works.
why or, and
Yeah.
then you said that
So,
option.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to take you to, you said A/B testing. So
Right.
do you do it randomly, or you just monitor the early adopters? How do you decide about the A/B testing?
Okay, so A/B testing is a thing by itself, and what we found out is that when you test on new players, okay, that's the easiest, is to test on new players because they don't know what was anything that was before. They're usually not aware of what other players have. The more veteran players that we have are very active in the community, and they keep talking with each other and comparing what they have. So you cannot, play too much with that. So the easiest way is to test on new players. And yeah.
This is like very important insight, because you said they don't know what was before,
Right.
so it's easy to test. So when people get familiar with the interface and the experience, it's harder
Much
to change
harder.
their habits. Okay.
In two ways it's harder. One is that they get used to something, and whenever you move the cheese for someone, most of the time they get upset or uncomfortable unless you communicate it very well and unless it's very, very beneficial for them. So it's always a delicate thing. And the other issue is that when you test on new players, you simply have to randomly allocate them between the groups. Whereas when you test on existing players, random allocation is not always best. Sometimes you really have to pick and choose to make sure that the two groups have the same kind of players from all levels and all places, etc. So it's much more difficult to test on.
But for new players, it's like the reality. That's what they know.
That's what they know.
That's what
Exactly.
they get, and you can measure it. At the end of the day, but when you want to A/B test, you do want to know with your current users how they are going to digest it. So
Absolutely.
So you have to test them on them as well.
Yes, so it's always something that we need to decide if we go the more difficult route or not, and both has advantages and disadvantages.
You're always talking about an app. Are you available on web platform as well?
Yes, just Chloe.com. There.
Now, we are in the end of our episode, so we have a
Already?
tradition. You need to give 3 major tips to entrepreneurs.
Wow. In which direction?
Whatever.
3 tips for
3.
entrepreneurs.
Okay, so I have one very common one. Usually, when you're not sure if you should take money or not, usually the answer is that you need to take it. I've heard it from many others, but it's definitely true. Or most of the times it's true. Next one, even more important, I would say, and also very common tip, but when you experience it personally, you realize how powerful it is. Take very strong people to be with you, strong, experienced, and driven, and smart. I know. It's all about the people at the end of the day. Even if you have a very unique and amazing idea and vision like we have, still to make it happen, the world is very competitive, very difficult. Everything can go wrong. You need the right people on your team. And I'm very happy that we do that. We do have the right people, and we have an amazing team and amazing people, and we're bringing on more people. And now we reach the stage that the way for us to break through is also to get a lot of existing knowledge from the industry. And luckily, we're in Israel, and in Israel we have a very big industry of gaming companies. So we're actually looking to get more and more people that are from the industry and have that specific knowledge in the
In
realm.
background.
Yes, it's so important. I cannot stress it enough, even for the entire hour.
All right.
The third one, no.
We got 1, 2, yeah. Yeah. You
Third
need
one.
to bring another one.
Okay. Third one is that if you're thinking about starting a startup, you need to think carefully. Because the one thing that you will need the most, by far the most, is resilience. Okay, resilience. I mean, personal resilience. You need your personality to know how to deal with downturns and to get hit and to rise up again, because it will happen. And you will get hit hard, and then you have to stand up again. So
Great
that's,
tips. Thank you very much, Ron.
you're very welcome.
Thanks, Ila. So this was another episode of TLV DNA here, and you can listen to us on all major platforms from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and watch this episode on YouTube. Thank you very much, guys, and we see you next episode.